MTN's revising its capital spending in its home market, high time too. It says it's going to increase investment by 50% to 12 billion rand in 2016. The mobile operator aims to improve infrastructure and fund acquisitions. This is the MoneyMakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. To talk about this, the chief executive of MTN South Africa, Mteto Nyati, joins us in studio tonight. Mteto, once you guys have paid the Nigerians however many billions of dollars they want in fines, where are you going to find money to invest anything in any infrastructure in any country on this continent, least of all at home?
You know, Bruce, the good thing is that we've got very capable colleagues at a group level and whose job it is to make sure that we continue to run this business. And they continue to be doing a good job, and I'm sure they will be able to find a way.
So you've got the 12 billion rand ring fence then. The money is secure. It doesn't have to get...
12 billion rand is this for South Africa. We've got it. And it's very clear what we need to do. You know,
you're the new CEO of MTN
Yes.
South Africa. Does this suggest your predecessors have underinvested? Because it's a big increase in capital expenditure for the 2016 financial year.
I would say it is more reflective of our strategy going forward. You know, one of the things that we had to do towards the end of last year was to finalize our strategy. And this investment is at the back of that strategy, is talking to new things. For example, we want to revamp our stores, all of our stores. We want to make sure that our systems are customer friendly. You know, we want to also make sure that the network is at the same level or better than that one of the competition. You know,
do you think you've lost traction in the South African market? Because Vodacom, certainly Signal seems to be better, seems to be more reliable, seems to be more far-reaching. Cell C causing all kinds of havoc in the market in recent years in terms of undercutting on price. And MTN has been so busy focusing on growing its African and Middle Eastern footprint that it seems to have forgotten about its home market.
Look, I've now been in the job for 9 months and I've got clear understanding of what we have focused on and not focused on. And there are areas clearly where we are behind.
So you dropped the ball. MTN dropped the ball then.
The MTN focused on certain things at a particular moment in time. It made sense for us to do so. And right now we are focusing on the things that are going to help us to be better than our competition. And the things that matter right now is customer experience.
Now, customer experience, it's the things we don't see that cost a lot of money. So when I walk into an MTN store and I hand over my ID book, I expect my account to come up immediately. I don't expect to be told the system is down.
Precisely.
Which is something that happens far too often.
Precisely. In fact, when we walk into our store, even before you even tell us who you are, we should know who you are.
How?
That is exactly what we want to do, because we, you know,
because you're MTN.
Yes.
You should track my cell phone. You should know who I am as I walk into the store.
Yes. We've got technologies that are able to do that. And that's where we're going.
And that's all well and good in theory. You spend 12 billion rand. What does it buy you in the world of tech? Because tech's expensive and is obsolete almost as soon as it's invested.
You see, the choices that we're making those choices around the things that are going to help us to gain the commercial advantage that we want for ourselves. And we've chosen to focus on those things that are system related. System is going to be there for 10, 15 years. You know, the network is going to be there, you know, for a long time. You know, the kind of people that we're bringing, the training, that is the thing that keeps going all the time. But most of the things that we are focusing on, these are the things that are going to last.
Okay, so we look at the MTN network, stability of the network, lots of criticism of the MTN network, the calls get dropped all the time. Is that what you're looking at expanding?
It's one, you know. I would say, Bruce, the most important piece is, it's one thing to have a network. Do you have 3G? Do you have LTE? Because when you're looking at what our customers are looking for, they're looking for high speeds, high throughput, reliable network, you know. So we are focusing not just on the network, but how that network is giving you the service that you expect of it. That's where we are focusing.
And this money goes towards that. Also, it's a question of spectrum. And we know there's a big battle for spectrum in South Africa right now. It's the frequency, the gaps that you can use in spectrum. And there's a big battle as to who's going to control the spectrum once the SABC releases a lot of the spectrum, if and when they ever go digital. Where are we in that process?
What is good is that when you look at our regulator, ICASA, they've done a fantastic work with regards to how to go about the auctioning of the spectrum. And the auctioning of that spectrum, they've looked at all of the players, even the new players that want to participate. They've come up with a formula that we believe all of us should be supporting. It's a formula that, when I look at all of the key players, although we don't typically agree with Vodacom or Cell C around things, on this particular one, we're all in support of that approach.
There was a debate as to whether or not it should be auctioned to the highest bidder, or whether or not the spectrum should be held by a central player and spectrum rented from that central player. Is that resolved?
I would say that there are two schools of thought. The predominant one in government is the latter, where it's held centrally. And the one which we believe is much more open. It's not necessarily the highest bidder. It's to make sure that all of the key players that can help drive the growth of South Africa have the necessary spectrum to help do so.
Okay, what about data? Data is the big growth engine of the cell phone game right now. Every mobile device nowadays almost is a smartphone that can access the internet, that can provide very useful information. Ludwig Marashani told us how he wrote his business plan on his smartphone and typed it out using his thumbs. It's the business enabler. It's the business tool of the future. Data is slow. It's expensive and not that plentiful. How do we get around that?
That's very interesting, Bruce. It's precisely my discussion when I'm having this discussion with government or with the regulator, saying that on the one hand, we want the cost of communication to come down. And we are there. We want exactly the same thing, because it's going to be driving down, it's going to be driving the growth, On the other hand, we do not have the thing that is going to help us to do that, which is the spectrum. So that's why we are pushing, because immediately you start to have spectrum, we'll have to reduce the investments, the unnecessary investments that we are making right now to densify. We are putting so many towers. There is not going to be any need for that. We can get our hands into in the spectrum. So our suggestion is that let us push together, all of us as South Africans. Let us move forward.
But isn't this a discussion that has been going for 5 years, maybe longer?
It is, but right now it is the time because if we do not address this thing, when I look at the industries today that are continuing to be growing in our country, probably three: the tourism, after the fiasco around the visas, but now it's got back. The financial services and telecommunication. We cannot afford not to support the few that are growing. And the enabler for that, it is the spectrum.
Now, we had lots of communications ministers over the years, and they change almost as fast as finance ministers in South Africa. Yunus Karim seemed to be making really good progress, and then he was removed after an indecently short period of time and replaced. And one gets the sense that there's a desire but not a will, or a will and not a desire, or just not the ability to get these things.
Look, what I like is that the engagement that we have had with Siyabonga Cwele, and he has been open. I mean, only 2 weeks ago he was here at MTN. Again, we're talking about how to go about addressing this issue of the spectrum.
He was in Kigali. He was at the World Economic Forum, and he was looking around him, almost, I think, surprised at the telecoms revolution in Rwanda, for example. Much smaller country, much more simple to do, but the empowerment that great telecoms brings is extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. I think at some point one needs to resolve the tension of, do we want to control this industry, or should we just allow it to flourish? And what the role of government should be, should the role be of that one of an enabler, of that one of a controller?
But if we're still stuck in that particular discussion, then government, we know, wants to put itself at the center of the developmental state, and government to be the enabler. And I can give you multiple lists of failed enablements. How long do we get through this particular bottleneck and this issue?
We are all South Africans. We want to make sure that this country becomes successful. The key is no matter how much the problems we have, we need to engage and continue to engage and help each other to better understand what's the best route forward. And that is what I'm seeing today, where we've got the key players within the industry engaging, and they are engaging across all of the key stakeholders to make sure that we're all on the same page around these matters.
Are you maintaining market share against Vodacom and Cell C?
What I'm seeing over the last three quarters now, we've been growing our share as MTN.
How's that possible in an environment where Cell C and Vodacom claim to be growing theirs?
I'm not sure. Everybody is growing. The key question is, are you growing faster? We have been growing faster than our competitors over the last 3 quarters.
How many people still port cell phone numbers? I mean, is it all about the deal? Is it all about, what are the dynamics at play when it comes to the way in which people treat their phone numbers and their accounts and their loyalty to a network? Does that exist?
The key is people, it depends on the segments of the market. You know, in certain segments of the market, people are really looking for value. How much does my rent take me? How long? You know, is it like 1 day or 2 days? You know, it's a value discussion. But at a certain segment of the market, it is more about the experience. You know, am I being able to download? Am I able to watch video? You know, and these are not necessarily the same. The requirements are completely different. And as a network operator, you've got to be sensitive and be comfortable to address all of these key requirements of your segment of the market.
It's a fascinating discussion. I wish you luck with it, because we do need a breakthrough to come in terms of spectrum and in terms of access to spectrum, because it affects us as the client experience and ultimately the ability of companies like yourself to make some profit.
Thank you so much, Bruce.
There we go. That is Mteto Nyati, who's Chief Executive of MTN South Africa. 9 months in the hot seat, under investment for a while as the company focused on its big expansion drive, and a very fine focus once again on what is really important, and that is how you get to experience the service. More on the Moneymakers next time. Thank you for watching. Good night.